So, Mr. Crest said we should talk about work, but not here. Is there a room in the back or something? Cool, I'll get set up. So, Mr. Crest said you might be able to help me out with something. Well, not me, so that's clear. It's not me you're going to be helping. And I want it understood that I am not involved. Just a bystander doing a favor. And this is not an offer of employment so much as an opportunity. And, well, anyway, that's just getting a bit technical. But the point is, sometimes our fair and legal justice system makes mistakes. And this is one such time. Here he is, Professor Maxim Rashkovsky. You know the professor? Used to be head of research for the Army. 3 doctorates. Overconfident polymath, vain sociopath, tedious egomaniac, control freak, geneticist, weapons development, engineer, car nut, but definitely not a people person. Accused of espionage along with everything else? You don't remember? Well, lucky you. Exceedingly vain and self-absorbed man, brilliant at everything he does, yada yada yada, makes you want to puke. He's a goddamn traitor. I mean, he's a rat, but he pays. Incarcerated for a crime he did commit, but, well, let's just say money talks and he's going to walk. So, we got a few things to get ready, all pretty straightforward. Do them one at a time, but any way you like. Standard op for a gov-fact breakout, if you know what I mean. Rad. All right, first thing's a plane. Then we got a bus, and then, well, 2 things. We got the inmate transfer schedule and Rashkovsky's car. More on that later. Let me show you. We need a plane to get the professor out of the country. It's currently being used to traffic drugs by transnational street gang, the Vagos. The bus. Need a standard Bolingbrook transport vehicle. The least traffic is on the route from Lido Bay. All right? That's where you're going to be able to get a hold of one. You can get a hard copy of the inmate transit schedule at the LSPD's Mission Row station. Go in unarmed, play it cool, you might not have a problem. That's a 2-person job, max. The other 2-hander is our guy's prize Casco. We believe it's about to be shipped to Korea by a luxury car theft ring. Okay, Mr. Crest said you guys are at least semi-competent, so, well, Professor Rashkovsky pays well. Okay, it's time to catch the bus. You can have that. It's on the road from the prison to Toledo, and I'm here if you need me. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking not second-guessing us again.
Leading up to this election, I've got Bill Kristol sitting here. I've got, former friends, conservatives from across the aisle. We were all aligned in how do we defeat Trump. It was a meeting.
I don't work out.
You know what, Scott?
Scott, tonight on Laura Coates Live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Omar Jimenez in for Laura. We're going to start with a federal judge blocking President Trump's push to end birthright citizenship using really the only tool the Supreme Court left on the table. Now, if this sounds familiar, you're not wrong. Because remember, it was just a few weeks ago the Supreme Court limited the power of lower court judges to block federal policies nationwide. This ruling got around that by coming through a class action lawsuit, which the Supreme Court still allows. The decision covers all babies born on or after February 20th, regardless of their parents' immigration status. And this is from a judge appointed by George W. Bush. The question now, will this case wind up in front of the Supreme Court, forcing the justices to rule on birthright citizenship itself? The lead attorney in the case is confident that if it does, it won't swing Trump's way.
The text of the Constitution is clear, the history is clear, the precedent is clear. So can they take an issue up to the Supreme Court? Quite likely, yes. Will they win? Absolutely not.
Well, that journey might be exactly where this is headed. The White House is already saying they're going to respond, specifically saying the Trump administration will be fighting vigorously against the attempts of these rogue district court judges to impede the policies President Trump was elected to implement. And birthright citizenship in this context isn't the only immigration-related issue heating up. Take a look at this. So this is a clash between protesters and federal agents in Ventura County, California. It happened during a suspected immigration raid at a cannabis farm, which I'll point out cannabis is legal in California. Another raid was reported in Santa Barbara County. The Department of Homeland Security says in a statement, DHS law enforcement is executing a warrant at a marijuana facility. Our brave officers will continue to enforce the law. And we don't know as of now the exact details of why this farm was chosen for enforcement, but this scene symbolizes what farmers across the region fear, an immigration crackdown that could ensnare their workers, hurt their businesses, even potentially destabilize the nation's food supply, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But if that raid was meant to send a tough message to undocumented workers, Trump and his team haven't been speaking entirely with one voice.
We're going to have a system of signing them up so they don't have to go. They can be here legally. They can pay taxes and everything else. They're not getting citizenship, but they get other things. And the farmers need them to do the work. Without those people, you're not going to be able to run your farm.
There will be no amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation.
There's no amnesty.
Hi.
We're doing this. We're getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program.
So, a work program. But mass deportations are going to continue. And there's going to be automation with 100% American participation. If you're confused, so are farmers. One California farmer telling the Los Angeles Times, it just shows how uninformed and out of touch some of these officials are with what food production looks like in this country. Back on the Trump administration. For the president's hardline allies, any talk of a program for undocumented workers looks like amnesty up against a campaign promise.
The lobbyists are going to come back and call it something else, but it's amnesty. It can't happen. Mass deportations now, amnesty never.
How are you? I'm wonderful. I'm just gaming right now. So that's what's going on.
So now the president finds himself in what's become a familiar position, caught between the economic reality on the ground and the purity test from his own base to carry out a campaign promise. We're going to talk more about that in a bit, but let's start on the birthright citizenship issue. With me now, Josh Gerstein, senior legal affairs reporter at Politico, and Rebecca LeGrand, attorney and founder of LeGrand Law. Thank you both for being here. Josh, I want to start with the birthright citizenship ruling because the White House says the judge circumvented the Supreme Court's ruling, but against nationwide injunctions. But is this not the type of class action type-based remedy that the Supreme Court left the door wide open for?
Yeah, and indeed, a couple of the justices said, we're pretty clear if we take nationwide injunctions off the table, people are going to just rush to do class actions instead as a replacement. In fact, Justice Alito said he was worried about that, but he predicted it as well, as did Justice Kavanaugh. So to say that it's sort of like a crazy end around when the Supreme Court itself put it in their opinion, I think it's really stretching the truth.
And Rebecca, I mean, we're already seeing the signs. This is probably going to end up back in front of the Supreme Court again.
Yes.
How might they approach this issue sort of this time around? I know it's different, but it's a similar set of circumstances.
My hope is that they will approach it by starting with the text of the 14th Amendment, which has been found ever since it was enacted to mean that babies born in this country are U.S. citizens. And every district court that's addressed this so far, and there have been 4, has found that the executive order seeking to change the law completely from what everyone's understood it to be is blatantly unconstitutional. So I think the Supreme Court is going to have to start with the text of the amendment and what everyone's always thought it meant. And I hope that as the lawyer for the ACLU said, that they will reach the decision that the 4 district courts all across the country have already reached, which is that is the law, that babies born here are citizens.
And just when you look at the nature of this class action lawsuit, I mean, does today's ruling, or does this particular case and how it moves forward, does it sort of set this for other judges looking to provide nationwide relief, or other attorneys to provide nationwide relief? Is this really kind of the roadmap that's being laid here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see efforts to get that in some other cases, although sometimes you do encounter judges that don't want to award nationwide relief when there's already another order in place. But the legal issues are actually very simple, because the judge who handled this up in New Hampshire, you mentioned he's a George W. Bush appointee, he had already ruled in one of these cases, so he couldn't very well take the opposite position and say there's, birthright citizenship doesn't exist anymore. The portion of his opinion dealing with that issue is really only like half a page, because he says we ran through all this before. It's blatantly unconstitutional. And by the way, 3 of the Supreme Court justices who ruled in that nationwide injunctions case also said that it was patently unconstitutional. So we're really just talking about whether 2 more justices can be found to take that position publicly.
Sure. And I've heard lawyers hate to go against their own precedent, but that's just me observing. I want to also ask you, Josh, too, because a federal judge held an evidence hearing today over Kilmar Abreu Garcia, a demand the Trump administration admits was wrongfully deported to El Salvador. An ICE official admitted it's possible that there are discussions to deport him to a third country if he's released from criminal custody. We're still waiting on a decision on that point, but you were in court today, as I understand. What were you hearing in regards to their arguments? What did you observe?
Well, I was in the courthouse for this 3-hour-long hearing, and it really looked to me like the Trump administration had once again sort of angered and irritated the judge up there, Paul Azinis. And what they did this time was they brought in an ICE official whose familiarity with this case began, believe it or not, on Tuesday morning. In other words, he said that he'd spent 3.5 hours looking at the facts of this case, which, to be honest, Omar, that's probably 10% of the time I've spent looking at the case, and the lawyers have worked on it have spent hundreds of hours. But he only became involved in the case 2 days ago, and this is the expert that the Trump administration brought in to give the judge advice about what was going to happen to Kilmar Abreu Garcia. She seemed very irritated by that, said the whole process had taken 4 times longer than it should have, and she decided she couldn't even hear arguments on this today. She put it off until tomorrow morning, but she sounds very irritated by the whole thing and concerned that there is a possibility they might try to ship Abreu Garcia out of the country, or maybe send him to Alaska or someplace like that. It would be very hard for him to prepare for that criminal trial down in Tennessee.
We'll continue to watch for that ruling. Rebecca, I want to ask you about one other thing, because Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, was speaking today and got a round of applause after answering this question.
What keeps you up at night? I would say the state of our democracy. Very stated to focus, to invest, and to pay attention to what is happening in our country and our government.
So that's on stage, but she's also a bit blistering dissents, and I just wonder how do you assess her judicial direction at this point, and does even that answer signal anything to you about her judicial direction outlook moving forward?
I think it shows how seriously she takes her job. I think her answer to what keeps me up at night and where she sort of went from there, which is I hope that all Americans are paying attention. I think it's hard to argue with that. I think no matter what side of these issues you're on, we are dealing as a nation with very important, significant changes in how things have worked, in many cases since the founding. things are being changed quickly and in dramatic ways. And I think it is important for everyone to pay attention. And I think if you're a justice on the Supreme Court, you should always be worrying about keeping our democracy safe and sound. And I think she's an incredibly effective writer. I think her dissents have been really powerful. I'm sure she'd rather be in the majority, but I think she's demonstrated her intellectual firepower and her skills as a writer and a jurist.
Rebecca, Josh, appreciate both of you for being here, as always. All right, as we also have been talking about, tonight's raids at farms in Southern California are renewing fears about where President Trump's immigration crackdown is headed next. There is deep concern these raids could spread to farms producing food and agriculture. USDA says California produces about 11% of all agricultural products in America, more than any other state. And out of the more than 850,000 farm workers in California, nearly half are undocumented, according to the University of California, Davis. Let's talk about it. With me now, Manuel Cunha Jr., president of Nisei Farmers League, an organization that represents 500 farmers and more than 75,000 farm workers. Thank you for being here. President Trump has mentioned some sort of reprieve for...
Bitch, I don't give a fuck.
Nothing's set in stone yet. You talk to many of these farmers and farm workers. What is the level? How would you characterize the level of fear and anxiety among them right now?
Well, sort of because I think I'm a school of not knowing day to day if the workers to be there. Is the farmers going to be the harvest crop? The great concern for the farmer is for that worker. If that worker going to be able to come to work, how he comes to work, what he looks like, how he drives, the pathway he takes, all of those things are being concerns of the growth in the work. All of our employers, farmers, contractors, brokers, hires, hire workers, all based on their information they present, face the value. Our workers are crucial to this entire economy across the world. The front workers were so important in COVID. We call them frontline workers, essential workers. Without the farmers and the workers, there would be no food in the store, or restaurants, or anything during the time of COVID. The United States said, thank God for the farm workers and farmers. Today, we have a total misdirection. We have the president saying great things about what he wants to do for the farmers, sign the work around, take care of the people. And yet, I see the agency land. And even my ag secretary saying, we're going to move forward with mass deportations. There's going to be camps, agricultural farmers, farmers, and we asked the president for this week.
And you'll start saying, but actually, you brought up the agriculture secretary, and one of the things we heard from that secretary is to have a 100% American workforce. And you actually tried to help hire American citizens to work on farms when there was a shortage of employees in the 90s, as I understand. What did you find then, and what is your message to those who say we can just replace the undocumented workers? We have the workers to do it.
Well, 1998, when the disaster, 77,000 farm workers were short. We had pears in the ground, runs, peaches, nectarines, cherries, a lot of crops, raisins. Crops did not get harvested because of the shortage. So the Congress started food immigration law told the president that had just passed the welfare report. So we told the back in the children for so we did set up a whole entire thing by the state. 10 counties involved, San Joaquin Valley, the entire, and the Salinas Valley, the vegetable part of the world. We set it up, we did everything. We had a child care program, we had transportation, we had training. We separated the people that cannot work. In just Fresno County alone, we had 22,000 human beings that could work, talk, they could do anything. They were healthy. They were not folks that couldn't. We had 500 people sign up. We had a system where all the job orders came into the Ag Labor Network. We didn't send them to all the ED offices. we had over 60 EDD offices, so they would go right to the correct office in the right city and county. 500 people applied. When we got done, 3 showed up, actually went to the farm. 1 got lost, 1 went for half a day and quit. The 3rd got the job order, he went to the farm, he came back in the afternoon to the employment and said, I need unemployment, I need that workers' comp, because he had gotten hurt. He never showed up at the grower's operation. So what's the difference, 1998 to today? Farm workers are a very strong, educated group of workers. It is a skilled job. I'm sorry. If anybody says it isn't, then they haven't been on a farm. It's hard work, and that's what we liked about the president saying, we've got to take care of it here. But I understand drugs and those things. Get warrants, go do those things. But when you're in your farms today with military,
Manuel, sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, but Manuel, I just wanted to say thank you for the time and sharing your expertise, especially from what you all did in the 90s. Manuel Cunha Jr., really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk about some of the political implications of all of this with Democratic strategist Amisha Cross and Republican strategist Lance Trover. Good to see you both. Lance, I'll start with you. When you hear President Trump say, "Oh, maybe we got to figure out something for the farm workers right here," is that something you see as a serious option, given sort of, I don't know if you want to call it an edict, to sort of do the opposite and remove as many undocumented people as possible?
Yeah, look, and I don't buy into this idea that it's amnesty per se. I mean, there is a program which that I have seen and had experience with getting, workers here to come in and work on farms and the like. If we're talking about streamlining that process and cutting out the bureaucracy so we ensure that they are here legally and working legally, I am all for that and think that's the right play. I actually think it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world for Republicans, while they have the majority, to consider codifying things like this and looking deeper into the immigration issue, because they have a majority and they could put up a serious proposal on some of the things
I hear you saying that, but some of the more MAGA faithful base look at anything. I mean,
amnesty is just off the table, and I'm not arguing. I don't think we should have amnesty either, but I think Republicans should seriously consider, while they have the majority, to look at programs like this for farmers and hotel workers, people who can come here legally, streamline the process, potentially codify it into law. I mean, Republicans have the majority. They can control and codify some of these things into law, because Lord knows if the Democrats get back in power in 2028, we saw what the last 4 years were like. I mean, it's the floodgates and the wild, wild west again.
And, Amisha, part of the controversy around all of this is sort of just the way in which ICE has been carrying out enforcement actions. And, we heard from Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman, who actually called out the Democrats today over criticizing ICE. Take a quick listen.
ICE agents are just doing their job, and I fully support that. And for me, and people in my party might, want to abolish it or treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous. ICE performs an important job for our nation.
And look, I'm not going to say ICE can't be criticized or scrutinized, but especially as attacks on agents are up. You had a police officer shot at an ICE detention center, allegedly as part of an organized attack in Texas. Is there a political risk for Democrats in sort of taking some of the, maybe if you start with legitimate criticisms, but taking that too far?
Well, I don't think there should be standoffs between ICE agents and the general public, even those who have been protesters and those who don't agree with some of ICE tactics at this point. But we cannot act as though this is the same ICE as it was just a few years ago, because it is not. The tactics have amplified. The level of scrutiny that they are getting is much deserved. The questions that many people have about the ratings, about the masks, about who they're rounding up, about the fact that, many of these people have not, they do not have a criminal history at all. They are not the violent people that ICE and the administration said that they were going to be going after. I think that there are a lot of legitimate concerns around that. However, there is a way to handle those concerns that does not end up in a standoff or people getting hurt. I think that for anyone who is trying to amplify that or trying to make that okay, that's a problem. Fetterman is taking a very interesting stance here because it seems as though, at least from some of the comments that you just played, as well as some of the things that he said on social media, that there is no bridge too far that he sees from this administration. And I think that much of the Democratic Party would disagree with that.
And Lance, just on that point, I mean, a recent poll did find 54% of Americans believe the actions of ICE agents have gotten far in these immigration raids. So I guess on the other side of things, are these raids politically sustainable, especially if they are, it seems, wrapping up nonviolent, undocumented immigrants as part of these as well?
I mean, overall, the polling has shown since the election last year, I mean, that's one poll of many, but by and large, the voters have been right on board with mass deportation. They certainly are strong on it.
Knock, knock. Dave here. We're in a bit of a crisis situation here in paradise. Now, the kind of music lads have been hit with a bad case of the munchies. They're after pizza, specifically. And only something from the mainland will do. I don't suppose you could see your way to flying some over? Business class? Oh, that's a crying shame. Be the change you wish to see and all that. I'll just have to see if anyone delivers to the Caribbean.
actually saved lives. What happened here?
Yeah, Omar, well, Kerr County residents we've spoken to who have lived to tell us about this disaster and who witnessed it firsthand certainly do think so. One such example is Lorena Guillen. She owns an RV park located right along the banks of the Guadalupe River. She told us that around 2:30 a.m. she called the local sheriff's department. She was concerned about the rising water levels of the river and she wanted to know if she needed to evacuate her residents. Now, she was told by the sheriff's department, according to her account, that they weren't aware of any sort of imminent threat. By 4 a.m., her entire RV park had washed away, and unfortunately, one family with small children could not be saved.
Damn.
Those dispatch audios that we just heard earlier, we received those from John David Trollinger. He was the former IT director for Kerr County, who also helped install this code red alert system. Now, he says he woke up in the middle of the flooding and started reporting on whether or not this alert could have saved lives. This is what he had to say.
A quick action could have helped people downriver, but at 3:30, once it hit 4:30, it was just too late. The code red would have been ineffective, in my opinion. The 1 a.m. National Weather Service call would be my, my pick. That would be the latest that an alert could have gone out to the public. They could have saved lives.
Now, as these exhaustive recovery efforts enter their 7th day, so does the quest for answers. But today, a notably brief press conference, and unlike the other press conferences we've seen in the past, there were no Kerr County officials present. The only person taking the podium today was the Kerrville Police Sergeant Jack Lamb. He answered very few questions, none of which shed light on the emergency response or whether or not they had any sort of way of warning people of this deadly flooding.
Admiral Gonzalez, really appreciate you bringing us the report. Thank you. All right, just ahead, a poisoned protein shake, an affair, an alleged jailhouse murder plot, the shocking trial about to unfold in a Colorado courtroom. We'll bring in details next.
CNN This Morning with Artie Fudge, weekdays at 6 a.m. on CNN. Sadly, windshield chips can turn into windshield cracks. But at least you can go to SafeFlight.com and schedule a fix in minutes. Sweet. SafeFlight can come to you for free. And our highly trained techs can replace your windshield right at your home. With flexible payment options, get it fixed now and pay later. Only at SafeFlight.com. SafeFlight repairs. SafeFlight replace. If you're living with HIV, do plan for tomorrow. Do consider how you stay undetectable. Do learn what's different about Dovato. Dovato is a complete HIV treatment for some people. Do find out how many medicines are in your pill. Most HIV pills contain 3 or 4 medicines. Dovato is as effective with just 2. No other complete HIV pill contains fewer medicines than Dovato.
It is unknown if Dovato is safe and effective if you have HIV and hepatitis B. If you have Hep B, don't stop Dovato without talking to your doctor, as it may get worse or harder to treat. Don't take Dovato if you're allergic to its ingredients or taking Dofetilide due to serious or life-threatening side effects. If you have a rash or allergic reaction symptoms, stop Dovato and get medical help right away. Other serious or life-threatening side effects include severe liver problems and lactic acid buildup. If you are female or obese, you may be more at risk. Tell your doctor about your medicines or supplements, medical conditions, liver or kidney problems, pregnancy, breastfeeding, or planned pregnancy.
Do look beyond today. Do ask your doctor about fewer medicines. Do Dovato. NatureMade. Still taking yours? Every day. Take charge of your gut with NatureMade. Clinically studied probiotics that support your digestion.
Can a mortgage move you forward? Absolutely. SoFi has helped over 130,000 people take the leap toward homeownership. So as your ambitions for your family, we can help you get to the next step with a smooth and simple process. So you can revel in the chaos of moving in. All your ambitions, all in one app. Join SoFi Plus and get a $1,000 home mortgage discount. SoFi, get your money right.
With Hotels.com, members save up to 20%. That kind of discount you could stay at a place with a killer spa, Get a manicure and clean up those mitts a little, eh? Hotels.com. Members save up to 20% at hundreds of thousands of hotels.
Psoriasis all over it. I couldn't get my hair done.
Then psoriatic arthritis. Eccentric work like this. Scalp psoriasis could mean a 4 times higher risk for psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Find a relief that can last. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
We have little Caesars. No. The Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Pizza. It's one pizza with 4 different topping combinations.
See Studios Fantastic Four First Steps in theaters July 23rd. Get a Fantastic 4-in-1 pizza, only $7.99. Little C times pizza. Please welcome the Fantastic Four with your family dinner every week. What's up? Stop, like to be fair. Time to save the planet. What's the plan? Trust me, I hate that's a bad plan. That's a stupid plan. Fantastic. If we pull this off, I take back every single bad thing I've been saying about you. To myself, in private. All the studios so fantastic. Get tickets now.
It's
This Prime Day, let CNN underscore link you to the Amazon. Our team of experts traverse through the rainforest of needles and turn up all the hidden gems so you don't have to. Shop Prime Day with CNN underscore and underscore.com.
Cyanide, an affair, an alleged murder for hire plot from behind bars. Those are just some of the many shocking details in the case of Colorado dentist James Craig, who's accused of killing his wife, Angela. Tonight, jury selection is underway as Craig faces 6 charges, including allegedly poisoning his wife's protein shakes, something prosecutors say resulted in her death nearly 2 years ago. But that's not it. Craig is also facing charges for allegedly plotting to kill 4 people from jail while awaiting trial. I want to bring in CNN's Gene Casares, who's following the case for us. So, Gene, let's just start with, what do we know led to James Craig's arrest?
Well, it's interesting because many people did the right thing. It was just a little too late. Here's what happened. He was a dentist, successful dentist, it appeared. He had his dental practice. And one of his employees saw him after hours at the dental office on the computer, but not in his office, in one of the exam rooms. They thought that was really strange. And then a few days later, he told one of his employees that told an office manager, I have a personal package coming to the dental office, don't open it. Well, an employee that didn't hear that did open it and sort of left it open. And then one of the office managers saw and it said that it was a chemical, a poisonous chemical. And she looked and it was potassium cyanide. Now at this point, Angela's in the hospital. And she researched it, and potassium cyanide had the same symptoms that Angela's having in the hospital. So she told the business partner, who was a dentist, of Craig, and then he went to the hospital and told the nurse he's ordered potassium cyanide. And one thing led to another. Police were called in, and before Angela even passed, there was a homicide investigation that had begun.
Wow.
Now, I want to show you, Omar. There is a text between Angela and her husband, James Craig, and this is after, because he made her protein shakes every day. I mean, he portrayed himself, and maybe he is, there's a defense here, as a loving husband. And so he'd given her one of the protein shakes on March 6th. She didn't feel well, dizzy, couldn't focus. So he says, let's show everybody here, have you eaten anything? She said, well, I had my protein shake and magnesium makes me weird. This is not hungry. Are you nauseous? No.
have been assassinated near their offices, near their homes, in Moscow itself, in Russian-held territory in Crimea. So it shows that Ukrainian intelligence officials have managed to penetrate Russian society and also have good enough intelligence sources to figure out who these senior people are. In a way, I'm kind of surprised that we have
got a bit of a...
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Okay, you're splitting into two teams. Transporter, officer, you're the ground team. To start with, you'll collect our bus from the junkyard at Sandy Shores. Demolitions, you're the perimeter team. You'll be hijacking the inbound Bolingbroke transport. The pilot's going to LSIA. And me, I'm gonna put up some smoke in a nice crowded public place. We've given everyone an AP pistol and a special carbine, so there's no fighting over who's the favorite. Ground team, when you get to the bus, the officer's driving, the transporter's in the back playing inmate. If the perimeter team do their job, you'll go in place of the scheduled bus. No one will know the difference. This operation's burnt if you attract police attention, so keep your heads down. Got it? Okay, get to work. You got the bus? All right. Take it to Bolingbroke and avoid attention. You're coming up on Bolingbroke. Hold it together and they'll let you in. You've got clearance.
Just one, huh? Thought the drug laws were keeping us full. Come on.
Okay, get to it. As long as they think you're an inmate and a guard, they shouldn't raise the alarm. I said shouldn't. So much for that. The facility's on alert. You move for Rishkovsky. Go west along the walkway, taking a left at the fork. You'll turn right at the next fork and see some stairs in front of you. Oh, shit. Look out. They called in Noose.
I thought they were sending professionals. I collaborate and nearly get a ship for the pleasure. Just give me the gun. Nice. There are some screws I hope we run into. Let's go! What is going on?
Asset acquired. Get to the pickup.
What is it with you people?
The paycheck is in your hands, transporter. Protect Reshkovsky. Officer, you're clearing a path for the transporter and Reshkovsky. Get them out alive. Make it safe and the asset will move up. You ain't moving till the area's clear. Come on. There's a small gap between the two buildings to your west. That's your exit out of the northern yard. We are going to incentivize this. We need Reshkovsky out of the country quickly and in good health. The better you do those things, the better you're paid. Okay, clear and move.
You better have a good plan!
Hello, we're back. Wherever you are in the world, you are now in the CNN newsroom with me, Ben Hunt, in Atlanta, and it is so good to have you with me. Coming up on the show, a crime against children. An Israeli strike in Gaza kills people waiting in line for medical treatment, and many of them were very young. After the deadliest month on record for Ukraine, President Trump says he struck a deal with NATO to get weapons for their fight against Russia, plus the largest forced migration effort in decades. Why? In decades, why Afghans are being pushed out of Iran. Welcome. We're beginning with a message from Israel's Prime Minister that his country is ready to talk about a permanent end to the 20-month war in Gaza. He made the statement on the final day of his visit to Washington on Thursday.
At the beginning of this ceasefire, we will enter negotiations for a permanent end of the war, meaning a permanent ceasefire. If it can't be achieved in 60 days of talks, we'll achieve it by other means. By using the power of our heroic army.
But Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear Israel is not backing away from its original demands, that Hamas must be disarmed and removed from political power in Gaza. The militant group has been demanding assurances that its ongoing truce talks with Israel would lead to negotiations about a permanent end of the war. But Hamas still accuses Mr. Netanyahu of placing obstacles in the way of a ceasefire deal. Despite the prospect of a truce, the daily struggle to survive in Gaza remains intense. Palestinian authorities say 15 people were killed in an Israeli strike outside a US-run medical facility on Thursday. The majority of victims were children who were reportedly waiting in line to receive medical care. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has the story, and we must warn you again. The images you're about to see are very graphic and difficult to watch.
Children's screams pierce through the smoke-filled air in central Gaza. But screams alone cannot prepare you for the scale of the carnage unleashed by this Israeli airstrike. The street is filled with the bodies of dead and injured children, whose bodies are quickly loaded onto donkey carts. And then there are those barely clinging to life, like this woman splayed on the ground. They took my daughter, she says. Her daughter's fate has already been sealed. In her blood-stained white dress, 4-year-old Aya is one of 8 children killed in this strike. Aya and her mother were among several families waiting to enter a health clinic run by Project Hope, an American nonprofit whose operations were known to the Israeli military. In her white dress, Aya is impossible to miss. Minutes later, 2 men walk by the clinic, and then an explosion fills the air. That smoke is soon replaced by an outpouring of grief. "Not my sister, no, not my sister," this boy cries. The Israeli military said it, quote, regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals and is reviewing the incident. It said it was targeting a Hamas militant who infiltrated Israel during the October 7th attacks, but declined to provide his name. These 4 children killed in the targeting of a single militant do have names: Amir, Mohammed, Yasmin, and Aya, still in her blood-stained dress. Mohammed, wearing a makeshift plastic diaper, is a testament to the desperate circumstances that brought his family to that clinic, amid shortages of diaper and baby formula. "Speak to me," Amir's father pleads, hugging his son's lifeless body. His brother Nidal joins him in mourning, but he hasn't just lost a nephew. His 14-year-old daughter Sama was also killed. "What happened is indescribable. It's a massacre, it's genocide, it's a crime against children," Nidal says. "My daughter woke up with a headache and went to get checked at the clinic. Suddenly we heard the sound and came running to see all the children dead. Sama's twin sister is inconsolable. Please, wake her up. She is lying. I know her. I swear she's lying. As one sister mourns another, father pleads for it all to end. Sama is gone. The war is still ongoing, Vidal says. May the war be gone with Sama. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Jerusalem.
Chesa Latifi is the Deputy Director of Emergency Response for Project Hope. On Thursday, Israel conducted an airstrike just outside of their clinic in Deir al-Balah, Gaza. Chesa, thanks so much for being with me. How are you doing at the moment?
Been better. Thank you for asking, but appreciate the opportunity to talk about what happened today.
Well, thank you for being here. Can you just walk us through what happened outside that Project Hope clinic? Who was affected, and what do we know so far about the victims?
Around 8 a.m. this morning, we had Project Hope patients that had started lining up outside of the clinic. It was a number of children and moms, parents, etc. When an airstrike hit, and what ensued was a complete bloodbath. We know so far that 10 children died, 2 women. Those were the numbers earlier today. I do believe that number has increased, but I can't confirm it at this time.
I do want to quickly remind our viewers that this was a clinic. It's not a military site. They hadn't even opened for the day. What message does all of this send about the safety of humanitarian zones in Gaza right now?
Yeah. Every clinic site that we have as Project Hope and as any NGO in Gaza goes through a process called deconfliction. And so we work with the correct Israeli agency in Gaza, and we
I'll ditch the truck, you hold on to those.
Our children to be within the table, and this is a registration of sorts. And so this clinic has been conflicted since it first opened, which was early 2024. The message is clear. There's no place safe in Gaza. There's absolutely no place safe in Gaza. These families had trusted us with the care of their children. 60% of the children that come to our clinics are suffering from malnutrition, so they're slowly starving to death. And they come and they hope for some help, something to give them a chance at survival, and that was taken away from them today.
Just seeing some of these photos is so sad. You described the Al-Tiara Clinic as a lifeline for families, especially for children and pregnant women. What does its temporary closure mean for the people who do rely on it on a daily basis?
The community will no longer have access to that care. We've had to move our clinic site. Hopefully we will be able to return at some point. But there's also, whether they have access or not, there's a fear, right? And this is not the first time that Israeli airstrikes have targeted hospitals. We've seen this happening since October or November of 2023. This is not something new. And again, it's people have to decide, do they want to stay safe or do they want to go see a doctor?
I've been with CNN for a few months now, and every single day reporting on heartbreaking stories from Gaza, like the aftermath of this strike. But you and your teams are on the ground, seeing and hearing those firsthand, from parents walking miles for care to children arriving dangerously malnourished. What are your healthcare workers telling you about the reality the Palestinians are facing right now?
My healthcare workers are also Palestinian. They're also from Gaza. They live there. They're going through the same thing. Some of them have been displaced 6 or 7 times. Many of them, probably every single one of them, has lost family members. Some of them very, very close family members. We have lost, very early in the conflict, we lost one of our own nurses who was home when an airstrike hit his home in Raqqa, and he passed in that attack. The mental health concerns are so sensitive, but at this point, everybody in Gaza is still in this fight phase, where I don't think that they have the space yet to even consider how this feels, because every single day is a fight for their lives, whether it is avoiding the violence or finding food or securing clean water.
I've learned so much from that. I really appreciate your time. I just want to ask this one last question, and quickly if we can. What does Project Hope need most from the international community right now? Is it protection or is it practical support like funding?
It's both. It's both. A call for a ceasefire. We've been asking this from the beginning. We need an international united call for a ceasefire, but we also need additional funding with what is happening in the Trump administration. Our funding that these clinics were supported through has ended. And so we're able to keep them open for now, but that's not secure. And so, yes, advocacy. Funding and awareness. This is not over. This has not ended. This is still going, and there is an entire population in Gaza that needs support, that needs help.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Just TV.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
President Trump says he's made a deal with NATO to get weapons to Ukraine. It comes after Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Russian foreign minister and said that the US is actively talking to European countries about sharing Patriot batteries with Ukraine. On Thursday, President Trump told NBC, quote, "We're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO is paying for those weapons 100%. He went on to say, "We're going to be sending Patriots to NATO, and then NATO will distribute that." Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that all signals point toward the United States resuming its aid to Ukraine. He made those comments while speaking to reporters at the Ukraine Recovery Conference, which is happening now in Rome. This all comes as Ukraine continues to fend off non-stop Russian attacks. A new UN report shows that June saw the highest number of civilians killed or injured in Ukraine in 3 years. The Kremlin says it does not believe the Ukraine peace process has stalled. A spokesperson claims they're waiting for Kiev to signal whether it's ready for a third round of direct talks. The UK and France have unveiled plans to support Ukraine in case of a ceasefire. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron made the announcement after a 3-day state visit in London this week. CNN's Nick Robertson has.
So British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, along with French President Emmanuel Macron, laid out their visions, their plans of what should happen if there's a ceasefire in Ukraine within hours. They want to have a force that's able to go into Ukraine to help stabilize it militarily, to help rebuild it militarily, to help it be able to defend its seas and its skies and its territory from Russian aggression. And it would have a 2-star general heading it based in Kyiv. That's their vision. This, of course, diametrically opposed to what President Putin said he's willing to tolerate in any vision, any ceasefire deal going forward for Ukraine. Absolutely diametrically opposed, and said he will not tolerate NATO troops going on the ground inside of Ukraine. This was a result and came out of the Ukraine Coalition of the Willing meeting that was chaired by Prime Minister Starmer and President Macron, and involved President Zelensky of Ukraine, Giorgia Meloni of Italy, the Prime Minister there, and for the first time, a U.S. official, President Trump's envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, was involved in that meeting, along with a couple of U.S. senators. This is how Keir Starmer laid out the vision.
We have just co-chaired a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, including representatives from the United States for the first time. We announced plans for a new multinational force, Ukraine, headquartered in Paris, so that we're ready to support a peace deal when it comes. But while Putin turns his back on peace, we are rallying more support for Ukraine right now to defend their people and force Putin to the table.
And another not insignificant message coming out of that meeting, both leaders said that they would join their nuclear deterrents to work together to protect Europe. This also appears to be a signal to President Trump as well, not just President Putin. In absence of a US nuclear deterrent coming to NATO's aid to protect Europe, France, the UK here taking a new step forward in this dimension. President Macron explaining it like this.
Ce sont des décisions fondatrices. Fundamental decisions that we've taken today in the agreement signed. Our two countries remain independent and sovereign, but we're giving ourselves the means, when necessary, to work together in keeping with the markedly more threatening environment that we now face.
It's probably worth saying that while these sound like very robust positions to be taking, there isn't a ceasefire yet between Ukraine and Russia. There isn't even sight of it coming. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had a meeting with his Russian opposite number in Malaysia, Sergei Lavrov. There he told Lavrov of President Trump's disappointment and frustration that President Putin hasn't started moving towards a ceasefire yet and continues a very heavy bombardment of Ukraine. But he did say, Rubio did say, that Lavrov had put forward some new ideas that he would be taking to President Trump later. The European position, though, is becoming clearer. Whether or not it can be enacted, that's an entirely different thing. Nick Robertson, CNN, London.
The US president is threatening steep new tariffs to Canada. He said goods imported from the United States' northern neighbor could face a 35% across-the-board tariff. That would be a dramatic escalation in the country's ongoing trade war. Canada is the third largest exporter of goods to the US. This latest threat comes after Donald Trump sent a flurry of letters to world leaders promising even more tariffs by August 1st. New dispatch audio recordings reveal how one emergency responder tried to save lives just hours before the flooding disaster in central Texas. Plus, the latest on the grim search to recover all victims.
Taiwan has been growing, producing, and exporting tea for more than 150 years. Oolong tea is the island's specialty. And some of the most renowned oolong is grown and produced here in the high altitudes of Alishan in Taiwan's central southern region. On this farm, each leaf is hand-picked with expertise. Now, why is Alishan such a great place to grow tea?
Because we have the nice temperature and less humidity. Quality tree. Alishan, we usually make the high mountain oolong tea, and high mountain oolong tea in Taiwan, we usually grow higher than 1,000 meters. The flavor, the fragrance were better.
The Ministry of Agriculture says Taiwan exported more than $83 million worth of tea and tea products in 2024. Some of its biggest export countries include the U.S., Japan, and China.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
When you're done superhero moment, go sideways. Pumpkin Now, the urgent pay service from Pumpkin Pet Insurance, can pay you for eligible care before you pay the vet. Ask your vet about Pumpkin or visit pumpkin.care and see Superman, only in theaters July 11th.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
This is Ome, a green escape just 90 minutes west of central Tokyo. It's here where I meet textile dyer Noriyuki Murata and his hand. Such a beautiful hand! Murata specializes in what we call aisomen in Japanese, or traditional indigo dye. Inside his family's workshop, a team is hard at work dyeing fabrics.
The dyeing technique we use here dates back to the Edo period, and it's been handed down through the generations.
It may look simple, but it takes patience.
Now I feel like I want to just actually feel the indigo. Now I get why everyone's hands are blue.
I'm Christy Lusam at the port of Hong Kong, and this is CNN.
Inside Africa, see a continent in transformation as trailblazers evolve culture, technology, and industry across Africa and beyond. Meet the thinkers growing Senegal's space program to astronomical heights.
We have this wonderful mission to making our country a space nation.
Inside Africa on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
We understand there is intense firefights ongoing.
I just want to go home, she says. I want my belongings, my toys, my memories.
But in Kim Jong-un, you have a leader who's given a 5-year plan. How do you convince him to talk?
It took some time to realize they had come to rescue him.
Now, the South Korean and American line has always been that this is defensive in nature.
What does it mean to be out front? It's going there. We are just about 3 miles from the Gaza border. It's context and curiosity, so you can be out front too. Let's go out front.
Out front, tonight on CNN.
Is there any way we can send a code red out to our Hunt residents asking them to find higher ground and stay home?
It's 10-4 standby. We have to get that approved with our supervisor.
Well, that was an audio recording of a volunteer firefighter in Texas that was shared with CNN. He was asking that an alert be sent out to warn residents in the small community of Hunt about the surging floodwaters. It took nearly 6 hours before some residents got that alert. On Thursday, the death toll from the devastating flooding rose to 121. President Trump will head to Central Texas to survey the damage. Governor Greg Abbott is requesting that more counties in Central Texas be added to President Trump's major disaster declaration. CNN's Isabel Rosales has more now on the arduous search for the victims.
We get a dog duck right now.
A hit from a cadaver dog. So you're thinking that there could be remains of it?
Yes, ma'am. Awesome.
Sends Jordy Marks and his team into action. The private drone company owner launching a surveillance drone over the Guadalupe River to aid the Cajun Navy and first responders in their search.
We just heard the dogs get a hit, so I'm gonna scan that area and make sure, make sure there's nothing there.
With more than 2,000 emergency workers on the ground, the search for the missing intensifying, nearly a week after floods devastated this idyllic part of central Texas.
What I'm looking for is anything that's different in the water. Anything that stands out in the water, I'm going to zoom in that area.
It took days for the drones to get authorization to join the search after a private drone operating in the restricted airspace over the flood area struck an emergency helicopter on Monday. It was forced to make an emergency landing, and all drones were grounded from what has proven to be a challenging search. For the second day in a row, there remains at least 160 people still missing.
The current was so strong, I think it took people and put them beneath debris, and the people that just trapped in the debris. And while the water is receding, then we're going to start seeing more people.
Now they join teams continuing their search in the water and on the ground. Heavy machinery doing the heavy lifting, flipping over river-swept vehicles. FEMA task forces now on site, setting up command along the Guadalupe River. Search crews wading its waters, moving debris piece by piece. Cadaver dogs actively scanning miles of riverbanks. Helicopters assisting overhead while ambulances wait on site, all in the grim search for victims of the flood.
The efforts get more complicated by the day. We covered a lot of area, but now it's the detailed work of getting through all this debris and destruction and making sure that we find every last victim.
Isabel Rosales, CNN, Center Point, Texas.
Okay, still to come. Hundreds of thousands of Afghans are being expelled from Iran in one of the largest forced migration efforts in decades. We'll have all of the details.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? It sounds like the facts are on your fingertips. Great question. You continue to fight for your name to be cleared. Why? Do you have any concerns about Elon Musk? There really is much more that unites us as Americans than that which divides us. It's a moment with huge consequences for the nation and the world.
Watch The Lead today on CNN.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Happiness could lead to living longer. You want to know how? On my podcast, Chasing Life, I'm uncovering the secrets of people around the world who are living happy, healthy, extraordinary lives. Hear how they do it and the science behind why it works. Join me as I reveal their secrets and discover how we can chase life together. Listen to Chasing Life with me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, wherever you get your podcasts.
Join me, Larry Nadeau, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talents, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers. Through action and impact, Dale Cato and Educate Watcher are using sports to spark change worldwide. Running is just a vehicle for what I'm doing as an activist. African Voices Changemakers on CNN.
How are we connected with stories from around the globe? We're on the ground to follow the facts. We examine big ideas, we let diverse perspectives flow and ignite conversations that matter most. To bring the world to you. Stay informed, stay connected, stay invested. From our studios in Abu Dhabi, join me for Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
Today on CNN.
Our backstory?
It's a long one. And it's my brother. This is my child. Steve Irwin. This is what we've been looking for.
You never know what you're going to It might just change your life.
This is CNN.
To understand the world, we need to know the truth. And that's why we follow the facts, wherever they lead, no matter how far we have to go.
$5 duo at BK. Step up to the plate and have it your way. Get two of your faves, it's up to you. Just figure it out. Then hit the drive-thru. BK, have it your way.
'70s that it began producing the wine it's renowned for today. In 2019, this region was added to the UNESCO Creek.
And you know how hot Heron can be. Fire. Last week it was about 400 separated unincorporated children.
Harissa is 11, but this year was told she couldn't go back to school. We spent 6 years in Iran, she said, before they told us to apply for the exit letter and leave. We did have a legal census document, but they told us to leave immediately. They're often arrested on the street and deported without a chance to collect their belongings, sometimes from years working in Iran for better wages. Ashir is in his 20s and was removed from Tehran. First, they took about $200 from me, he says. Then they sent me to the detention center where I was kept for 2 nights, and they forced me to pay another $50. In the detention center, they wouldn't give us food or drinking water. There are about 200 people there. They beat us up and abuse us. For Iran, it's a matter of pride. The music here sets the mood of how state TV presents the expulsions. And Tehran police release images of the manhunt, chasing Afghans, interrogating their employers.
چرا افغانیان شما به کار گرفتی؟ قانون گفته غیر مجاز.
میدونم تو ما میخوایم پولشون رو بدیم برگردم اینا.
那么很笨，我这是不是了？
The answer to why now? Why, when Iran should be recovering from a brutal 12-day conflict with Israel, would it choose to focus on undocumented laborers? Well, there have been accusations Afghans spied for Israel, like these alleged confessions in state media. The evidence may be lacking here, but the messaging is clear. That person contacted me and said he needed information on certain locations. He asked for them, I provided them. I got $2,000 from him. Iran decided to do this months ago, but perhaps never imagined this pace. And Afghanistan, already struggling, perhaps never imagined this new challenge of returnees. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, London.
We'll be right back with more news. You are watching CNN.
What if the real magic of Japan lies beyond the cities we know? I'm Ariel, and I share unique experiences from Japan on Instagram. At the Expo 2025 in Osaka, I visited Earthmart. After exploring the future of food, I wanted to dive into how it's made, hands-on. This led me to nearby Kagawa. And with the locals, we learned to make udon. We connected through food as we shared our life stories with each other. My next trip to Tokushima took me deep into the mountains to a samurai's old home tucked between forest and rivers. Sitting peacefully by the Idori, I shared a homemade meal and wondered, what was life like for him centuries ago? Japan isn't just a place to visit. It's a story you live, one incredible chapter at a time.
VCRs are extinct, film reels are fading, and old photos are fragile. Old formats won't last, but Legacy Box saves them. Professionally digitized, easy to stream, and ready to share. Join the millions of families who have trusted Legacy Box today.
Sleep in 6 minutes with this unique sound. Green noise overrides your brain chatter. Super helpful for racing thoughts. Try to feel your brain smoothing out. Mix and listen. Better sleep.
When your dog's superhero moment goes sideways. Pumpkin Now, the urgent pay service from Pumpkin Pet Insurance, can pay you for eligible care before you pay the vet. Ask your vet about Pumpkin or visit pumpkin.care and see Superman, only in theaters July 11th.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. This is really complex, discover business,
Economic trends. Really interesting something here.
nature, and culture, and the stories shaping Africa today.
Explore its markets around the world.
The energy is amazing.
It feels so good to be here.
I'm Rafael Bromo in Atlanta. This is CNN. Go to the local market before they can get a fresh meat, a fresh vegetable. Chop the meat, and then we cut the vegetable. We put some salt, less wine, salt, and a little bit oil to season the meat, and then put the vegetable inside and mix them together. And then we make the dough become small piece and make the wrapping, and then put the filling inside, and then we make the dumpling. So we eat the dumpling, it's very crispy, it is very good.
In a divided America, where do I fit? It's only answer. Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table. Can you name one thing you do just look at the policy is random. Classes in session to talk about the issue. Sort of solidifying is or false. The answer is 0. The policies. What does the Democratic Party about? Can we answer that question? And the biggest debates to wrap up your day. hear what you're saying, Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea? Meeting this night with Abby Phillip tonight on CNN.
What does it mean to be out front? It's going there. We are just about 3 miles from the Gaza border. It's finding out something unexpected. I relish all of our conversations. It's context. The economy is by far the top issue for Americans in this election. Curiosity. Someone else need to jump in the race. And above all, it's about sharing that so you can be out front too. Let's go out front.
Aaron Burnett out front tonight on CNN.
Welcome back. The original Birkin bag has been sold at auction, fetching the equivalent of around $10 million. The iconic black Birkin was the first handbag to be created by fashion house Hermes for the British actor and singer Jane Birkin. CNN's Anna Stewart has all the details.
Well, they are the ultimate symbol of wealth and celebrity status. And this wasn't just a Birkin bag. It was the Birkin bag, the first of its kind, owned by Jane Birkin herself. The actress and singer inspired the bag after a chance encounter with the then Hermes CEO on a plane. A hallowed story in fashion lore. And what you see here is the very first version with Jane Birkin's initials. The bag looks rather worn. It's scuffed, it's scratched, it has traces of glue, but it's all part of the bag's story and its value. It was bought for $10 million, a little over $8 million on the hammer, and the rest being fees, making it the most expensive handbag to ever sell at auction. Sadly, we don't know who's bought it and what their plans are for it. Will it be used, displayed in a museum, hidden in a safe? Who knows? Birkin bags have long been seen as much an investment as a fashion accessory. In 1984, a new bag cost around $2,000. Now it's more like $13,000. But they actually cost much more second-hand, given they have a very limited run and a similarly limited client list. According to research from Bag Hunter, between 1980 and 2015, the Birkin's value on the secondary market averaged 14.2% a year, beating both the S&P 500 and gold. Jane Birkin's bag has now sold, but you know what? It's had a few owners before, so you may have a chance to buy it again in the future, and who knows, perhaps its value will skyrocket further, making this $10 million price tag value for money. Anna Stewart, CNN, London.
That's all I've got for you. Thanks for joining me and the team. I'm Ben Hunt in Atlanta. World Sport is next. Then I'll be back in 20 minutes with so much more. CNN Newsroom. See you in a moment.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Happiness could lead to living longer. You want to know how? On my podcast, Chasing Life, I'm uncovering the secrets of people around the world who are living happy, healthy, extraordinary lives. Hear how they do it and the science behind why it works. Join me as I reveal their secrets and discover how we can chase life together. Listen to Chasing Life with me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, wherever you get your podcasts.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
This is Himmel in Arda, which translates as heaven and earth. An area where some of the finest wines in South Africa are made. The region's wine history is relatively short, but it was in the mid-1970s that it began producing the wine it's renowned for today. In 2019, this region was added to the UNESCO Creative Cities list of gastronomy. Our region is really famous for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Some people call it the Little Burgundy, and it is really fantastic. I think what grows together goes together, and for me it's about this incredible pristine environment that we have, and it's about marrying those local products which are so beautiful. Oh, there was another one. That was another controlled explosion. It's one nurse for this whole area here. He's coming here to buy medicine. The most important stories of our time. What they mean to us all. It's vital. I share them with you. A very warm welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Edith Suarez.
Isa Suarez tonight, today on CNN.
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and you can't see a way through, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster in equal measure, if you can run with the wolves and not be afraid of the bears, for when we come together, we will make sense of it all. And what is more, my friends, you will be profitable, for you are indeed watching Westling's business.
We understand there is intense firefights ongoing.
I just want to go home, she says. I want my belongings, my toys, my memories.
But in Kim Jong-un, you have a leader who's given a 5-year plan. How do you convince it to talk?
It took some time to realise they had come to rescue her.
Now, the South Korean and American line has always been this. It's defensive in nature.
25 years of Inside Africa. Celebrate its culture, its people, its flavour, its heritage. 25 years of compelling stories.
The aspect I want to have is to show the real Africa.
The trailblazers, the youth, Africa's present and future. Celebrate Inside Africa in association with Zenith Bank.
Oh, they need to advance to the last 8 scenes of mayhem and sheer delirium and elation there as Switzerland advance to the quarterfinals, and it means so much to everyone there supporting the home side in that stadium. Incredible scenes. They've done it, but it was close. Now, in Thursday's other match, Norway and Iceland going head-to-head, just 7 minutes on the clock. Iceland ahead, but their lead didn't last long as Norway get themselves level through the youngster Senior Gopse, who powers a shot through a cluster of players to 1-1. Then it's the same player again for Norway, helping herself to another one. Nothing at stake in this game, I will say, as Norway had already qualified for the last 8 as group winners, while Iceland had already been eliminated. For the record, Norway 4-3 winners. Let's see how that impacts the standings there in Group A. What a dramatic Thursday it was. 7 goals there, as we mentioned. Norway and Iceland in that one. Finland won, Switzerland won. And it means confirmation, Norway and Switzerland going through from that group. The best men's golfers in the world fine-tuning their game ahead of the forthcoming Open Championship in Northern Ireland. Just the kind of links test everyone has to be ready for, including, when necessary, chipping the ball over a wall. Yes, over a wall when you need to. Rasmus Nygaard Peterson here, the Scottish Open, and the young Dane does it superbly. His shot judged pretty close to perfection. The ball, look at this, it's over the wall. Could easily hit the wall and gone anywhere. The ball landing on the green, coasing up to the hole. It's not in the hole, but it's pretty close. It's a wonderful shot. What a play. Wonderful stuff from him. Thank you so much for joining us. Do take care. And as always, stay with CNN. It's bye for now. We'll see you next time.
In Mongolia, not every street has a name, which can make getting around a challenge. This was an early roadblock for the founder of UVCAB, a ride-sharing service and app launched in 2013.
People here navigate by landmarks, not street names and not GPS. We were inspired by Uber, but we built from the scratch. Data on a Google map was not sufficient for us to run a ride-hailing app.
So we need to develop our own addressing system.
That system meant creating a database of colloquial naming conventions for different areas and buildings. That information was layered on top of Google Maps, which now enables drivers here in Ulaanbaatar to easily get from A to B. UBCAP says it has 70,000 drivers and 1.5 million users, and is branching into other services like food delivery.
I'm Happy Rotman in Havana. This is CNN.
I looked in the mirror and all I could see were these deep lines staring back at me. So that's when I thought about booking a Botox cosmetic consultation. Sometimes as a parent, you just put yourself on the back burner, then that's okay, but it's also okay to do something for you. So I carve out 15 minutes every 4 months for a treatment. Booking a consultation is a way to take time for you. And I'm confident about my results.
Botox cosmetic effects may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox cosmetic if you have skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, or swelling. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
I'm the one and only Claire, and I got treated with the one and only Botox Cosmetics.
Learn more at BotoxCosmetic.com.
I'm Rahel Solomon in New York, and this is CNN.
But wherever you are in the world, you are now in the CNN newsroom. I'm Ben Hunt in Atlanta, and it is so good to have you with me. Coming up on the show, President Trump says he's sending defensive weapons to Ukraine via NATO. The UK and France reach a deal on how to handle the influx of migrants, and meet the fab makeup artist who has taken the internet by storm. Is it hundreds of famous celebs? That's coming up. Welcome. The U.S. State Department says it strongly condemns Russia's escalating attacks on Ukraine. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with the Russian Foreign Minister on Thursday. He says that he relayed President Donald Trump's disappointment and frustration during what he calls a frank conversation with Sergei Lavrov. Rubio also said that the U.S. is actively talking with the countries that share hatred axes with Ukraine. President Trump told NBC he struck a deal with NATO to send weapons to Ukraine through the alliance. He says NATO will pay for those weapons. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the also He made those comments while speaking to reporters at the Ukraine Recovery Conference happening right now in Rome.
We have a positive dialogue with President Trump regarding the Patriot systems. My request is for 10 Patriot systems and the corresponding volume for these systems. Germany is ready to pay for 2 systems. I have agreements with them. Norway is ready to pay for 1 system. We have a bilateral agreement.
CNN's Elena Trine is following the latest developments from the White House for us.
President Donald Trump says he struck a deal with NATO on Thursday to send weapons to Ukraine through the alliance, adding that the NATO alliance will pay for them 100%. He told NBC News this in an interview on Thursday. He said, quote, "We're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO is paying for those weapons 100%. He went on to say, we're going to be sending Patriots to NATO, and then NATO will distribute that. Now, we have reached out to NATO to see what the status of this deal is, but we do know that the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte spoke with President Donald Trump on Thursday. This is what Rutte posted to X. He said, quote, "Earlier today, I urged leaders to go further so Ukraine has more ammunition and air defenses. I've just spoken with President Trump and am now working closely with allies to get Ukraine the help they need." Now, we also heard from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, early on Thursday as well, talking about this and how they're working on some sort of plan to try and get Ukraine the aid and specifically weapons that are necessary for them to continue in this war with Russia. Rubio essentially said that the United States is actively talking to countries in Europe about sharing Patriot batteries with Ukraine. Now, earlier this week, we know that the president hinted that the administration was mulling sending more weapons to Ukraine. Listen to what he said.
They would like it. They've asked for it. They're very rare indeed, because a lot of systems have been sent to Ukraine. But they would like, I know they made the request. We're going to have to take a look at it. Very expensive system.
Now, also in that Thursday interview with NBC, the president said that he is very disappointed in Russian President Vladimir Putin, something we know he's been saying repeatedly over the last several days after Paul's direct talks with Putin have gone more sour. And then he also said that he's planning to make a big announcement regarding Russia on Monday, though he did not divulge what that would be. I've also talked to some White House officials who would not get further into the details of what the announcement is going to entail. Elena Treen, CNN, the White House.
The UK and France are working together on what the British Prime Minister is calling a groundbreaking new migrant deal. Keir Starmer says the agreement will take effect in the coming weeks. Under the deal, migrants who travel illegally to Britain by small boats will be sent back to France. For every migrant sent back to France, another person illegally seeking asylum will be allowed to enter the UK. The British Home Office says more than 20,000 people have arrived in the UK by small boat so far this year. Let's dig deeper with European affairs commentator Dominic Thomas. Dominic, thanks so much for being with me again. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you, Ben, and thanks for having me on the show.
Always welcome. Let's get into it. Both Prime Minister Starmer and President Macron have pledged actions on migration. But how much of this is substance versus style? And is there a danger that they're validating far-right narratives on migration in both countries?
Yes. So I think, first of all, the historic context. There's absolutely nothing new about UK-France discussions around controlling immigration. What I think is deeply ironic about this latest development and latest chapter in this history is, of course, going back just about a decade now, the Brexit campaign was essentially run and organised around making immigration the number one issue and threat, and Leave voters, those who voted to extricate the UK from the European Union, voted overwhelmingly in favour of that clause because of the question of immigration control. And here you have the UK Prime Minister going to Emmanuel Macron, which means also, therefore, the European Union, to help them manage their immigration issue. The obvious answer to your question here, too, is really the way in which they're going about identifying particular issues and problems versus instrumentalizing a question that is once again back on the agenda in the UK, given the popularity of the Reform Party and its particular stance on immigration.
Yes, the why is the big question. So from a European affairs perspective, what do these renewed UK-France talks actually signal about the future of the post-Brexit relationship? Are we seeing the beginning of a genuinely real reset?
I'm not sure that we're seeing a reset in terms of the broader relations, with Europe. I think that there's certainly ways in which they're seeking to articulate a range of measures and options. When it comes to the question of immigration here, it's important to look at the ways in which, for Keir Starmer and for Emmanuel Macron, these are opportunities for them to appeal to an electorate that continues to be manipulated by these particular questions and to appeal to them. It will not lead to any particular concrete results because the underlying issues and questions will always be there and the need for labour is going to be there. But it does provide them with a distraction from some of the broader issues and questions that they face at home that have to do with the cost of living, the National Health Service and the general economic morale, and provides a scapegoat and a distraction from those particular issues, as of course the focus on international questions does as well.
And the leaders also discussed military cooperation and nuclear deterrences. How should we interpret this increased alignment, especially as NATO looks a bit shakier than ever and transatlantic trust is clearly weakening.
Yeah, those are absolutely key points. Certainly for President Macron, and this has been the case throughout his presidency, in the second term, a president who's about to be termed out in a couple of years' time, focusing on foreign policy has always been his strong point. His ability to take him out and extricate him from a complicated domestic environment in which he lost his parliamentary majority. And when it comes to this, it's his strong point. Yes, you're absolutely right that the multilateral order is unpredictable and uncertain. And you see here both Starmer and Macron responding in some ways to pressure from President Trump, but also recognizing that the path forward, particularly with these two powers, that let's not forget, along with the United States, the UK and France are the only two nuclear powers that are members of NATO.
How does the summit actually reflect wider European political dynamics, especially ahead of lots of elections and with the far right gaining traction across the entire continent?
Yes, not just the continent, but also in the United States. I think in the case of Emmanuel Macron's repeated presence here and discussions with Keir Starmer, meeting with the King, I think it's also in some ways in anticipation of a early autumn or late summer planned visit of the US President to the UK, and how that kind of attempt at diplomacy enlisting a power on whom they continue to not so much depend, they are eager to maintain military support with the deep realization that one of the drivers and one of the oxygen is the social and economic situation and the grievances that are there, and reinvesting at a significant level in military apparatus is automatically going to mean diverting resources from certain areas of government expenditure. Those are of great concern to Europeans, let alone those that are not in favor of an increase in militarization there too. So I think there's a broad diplomatic reflection taking place, and the challenge is then balancing that with a domestic electorate that ultimately weighs in on the future parameters of government in those independent countries then.
Well, that sounds super complicated, doesn't it? Wow, what is going to happen next? Dominic Thomas, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
President Donald Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship in the U.S. has hit a legal wall. A federal judge has issued a new nationwide block against
We did it, Joe. We did it.
CNN's crime and justice correspondent Caitlin Palance gets us.
A federal judge in New Hampshire on Thursday said he had no issue putting in place an order that blocked the Trump administration carrying out its policy on birthright citizenship. Specifically, President Donald Trump wanted to end that long-standing practice of giving citizenship to babies born on American soil, even if they're born to immigrants who are not in the country legally or only temporarily. The judge in New Hampshire, this is for judges who have said that this executive order on birthright citizenship to end it appears to be unconstitutional, and that babies born in the U.S., in this case, after February 20th
I'm going to bed because I'm tired. Damn, it's always after midnight when I get off. Damn. All right, well, I'm going to see y'all later, a.k.a. tomorrow. You have a great night. Sleep tight. And I will see y'all later.
Policy for now because it hurts a lot of people potentially if those babies do not get citizenship if they're born in the U.S.